So I thought it was a really good opportunity to introduce my brother, Matt.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah, so Matt and I will be on the podcast here from time to time as well. And I thought it would be a really cool opportunity for us to be able to get together and share our journey of how we started making artwork together and a lot of the things that we've learned and grown from over the years. It's been really, really wonderful being able to connect with my brother, Matt. And I've always wanted to have someone that could work with me on my artwork and to be able to get really into a flow with together. So it's been really cool to be able to do that. So I thought we would just kind of like break down a little bit of our timeline together for the audience here. And there's a lot of things that we've learned from as we've been going through this practice. So this kind of story of Matt and Chris joining forces, I think it started here, like just to like kind of give a beginning, story. Matt and I, we had a bit of a falling out years ago, and we weren't really even talking to each other for a while, Yeah. And it was really, it was like, what was it, like 2017 around Christmas time, where we were having, just meeting back at our parents' house during Christmas and had some conversations there that really changed the game a lot, So I think you were kind of remembering a little bit of the things that we were talking about there.
Yeah, it was interesting to have that kind of dissonance between us for a little while, because like we're a family of 5 brothers all together.
Mm-hmm.
And but Chris has always been the one that I looked up to the most. Had been the most creative, and was a lot of influence on me growing up. And then it was just a whole whirlwind of things that I was going through at the time that kind of led to this little bit of a falling out in that way. And then we had gotten together and talked that through one day after dinner, the family dinner kind of thing, but still hadn't really reconnected that well. And then it was Christmas 2017, and we both started talking about how it was like, oh yeah, I've been trying to get into meditation, make it a daily thing, and then was learning about Ram Dass and was doing those meditations, and then was also talking about finding Jason Louv, and I was like, oh, there's this guy who teaches these classes on meditation. And really,
I was actually talking on the last episode about Jason Louv a little bit, about taking these courses on chaos magic, these really sort of far out realms that you and I were both exploring.
Yeah.
But at a distance, so we didn't even know that we were each kind of exploring the same sort of teachers and practices.
Yeah, so that was really cool to really be like, oh, we've been on this same path, even though we're at a distance and hadn't even talked to each other for a while. Mm-hmm. So then it was like, yeah, and then you would start talking about like, oh, I've had friends coming to the studio for meditation, and so I was like, yeah, you should join us at the meditations. And then it's like, yeah, let's do that, So I think it's about a year that we were doing that and doing Ram Dass meditations and having friends up at the studio and going through those different meditation techniques and guided meditations. Yeah,
that was really, it was really cool being able to reconnect after all this time. And that was when we first started really having friends over to the studio. I had been doing guided meditations. I was just listening to guided meditations from Ram Dass at that point and practicing a lot of different techniques and guided audio that I was working with. And my my apprentice at the time, Catherine Gomez, she was meditating with me at the studio, and then she had moved away. And then our friend Daniel Brojas, he started meditating together with me at the studio. And then that started snowballing and more people started showing up. So yeah, I had invited Matt to start joining us in the studio. He's living down in a place called Venice in Florida, which is about an hour drive to St. Pete, where my studio was at the time.
Yeah.
So Matt was making the trip up on Wednesday nights to come meditate with the group. And yeah, it was really great. That was a really like pivotal, supercharged time in my life and in yours as well. These big shifts were happening.
Right. Yeah. And it was also a very necessary time in my life as I was making those shifts out of like, I like the way there's a comedian named Theo Von put it when he was talking about his kind of sobering up in his life and all that kind of stuff. But he said, all my friends were alcoholics and I was competitive. I just like the looking at it that way. But, so I was kind of transitioning out of a form of life that was a very long time of being stuck in that mindset of, and then looking for new people to connect with, people that are more motivated in this way. So it was really great to offer that at that time, and then to be around people who are meditating more and around just wanting to improve themselves that much more. So it was cool to be there are others, and finally finding a group that was at least, once a week could go. It was like, even though it was like meditating for about an hour and the drive was an hour, but it was still like, yeah, this is worth it and necessary to, make that journey every week. And like, okay, it was super helpful for me during that time.
Cool. Yeah. That it was that conversation, I think, that we had at the parents' house during that Christmas time. I was remembering that it was that New Year's Day after that Christmas when I decided to start meditating every day for the rest of my life. And that was the first time I had verbalized it to anybody. When we were talking, I had said it to you and then our other brother, Stephen. And that really solidified it for me that I was going to do it. It was sparked by, I go to Art Basel every year in Miami, and there's these like big parties out there. And I just remember I was at this show at one of the hotels where they transform hotels. Huxo, one of my friends, Huxo, he curated a really great show there and transformed a hotel room with a group show of artwork. And I remember I was out there. I was talking to somebody who was pretty inebriated, somebody that I didn't know, and I had a piece that was based around Kali in the show. So he was talking to me a little bit about Kali. It was really unexpected to have that conversation, actually, and he was telling me that he really wanted to start meditating really regularly, but he was having trouble when he would travel to keep up the practice. And that really like planted this seed in my mind, like that moment where I was just like, yeah, like I need to do that. Like traveling, no traveling, just whatever I'm doing, just make sure like I'm going to meditate every day. I'm going to stop drinking. I'm going to, I'm just going to really make this a discipline. And that sparked that. And that quickly led to more and more people showing up to the studio to meditate together. Our other good friend, Tony Kroll, he started showing up to the meditations, and he really started running with it strong. And you and I were connecting well through the meditations. It was nice having you. And our brother Stephen, he was coming as well to the meditations. And I remember I had told you this, but at the moment I waited maybe a year or so before I brought it up, that after one night of our meditation practice, I was in the studio drawing on my Wacom tablet, and I smoked a little bit of cannabis, and all of a sudden I got this full epiphany vision of you and I painting murals together, painting gallery artwork together, on this spiritual journey and guided meditations and all of these kind of things that we're doing now all really kind of flooded into my mind, almost like I was watching a documentary about two brothers on this journey. So I had that like vision in my mind, and I didn't really share it with you, but I just kind of like had it like, okay, that sounded like that would be a really cool version of this movie if that really started happening. So I put it in my mind that, this is likely going to happen. It felt very, very powerful and strong. The as we were starting doing the meditation, I've got a little bit of a timeline here that we'll kind of like go through, and we can share some of the stories along the way of this journey. It was in 2018. That was January 1st when I started meditating every day. And it was a year into that is when I found Swami Kriyananda, Yogananda, our teachers at Ananda, and this path to Kriya Yoga. Mm-hmm. So as people started showing up to meditate together, I wanted to make sure that I had a super solid foundation, and if I'm going to be teaching others, I wanted to be able to know that I was properly leading people. So finding my guru and finding my teachers in that way. So I started on this path of Kriya Yoga at Ananda, which is about a year-long study. And then it was like maybe 3 months into that, it really resonated with you, and you started taking courses as well with Ananda.
Yeah, I remember you being like, there's this book, Autobiography of a Yogi. Here, read this. And I started reading that. I was like, wow, this is incredible. Oh, you can take these classes online and learn the techniques from the book. Like, oh, wow, that's amazing. And then just immediately it was like, oh, yeah, this is it. This is the path, I remember reading that book and just getting like most psychedelic level, visions and feelings that would come over me just from reading that book, so it's like, oh yeah, how do you do all these things, so it's like, yeah, okay, these classes, and it is a big leap from going from, just listening to a few guided meditations during the week to taking that full course on. But yeah, it was this like pedal to the metal, like there was no stopping that.
Like, it was so I was so thrilled that it was resonating with you in the same way. So now I had at least somebody else in this world that was like interested in taking it to this level and getting this like real discipline around it. And yeah, same thing for me. As soon as I read, the first book that I read from this lineage was the essence of the Bhagavad Gita. And it was just everything that I wanted to ever learn seemed to be contained in this book. And I now knew that there were people out there who could lead me to realizing the self. And I didn't have to travel to India. I didn't have to become like a completely different person. I felt like I was supposed to be making artwork and living in where I was, and as they know, it's called a householder, of having a wife and having a career and all of that. It just seems so far out that I would be able to practice on this level. But reading those books, it was just like, wow, I can do that, and I can do it here, and I can take online courses. And then when you started taking them as well, like we were able, it was our connection, our bonding, like our ability to really start having just such way more interesting conversations started to come through.
Yeah, that's like, I think you put it as like that book is a calling card for somebody who's really seeking for, a real path or something to like the next level of what meditation takes you to. So it was like, yeah, finding that was like, didn't believe that was possible beforehand. Like I didn't know that that existed, so it's really cool to find like, oh, you can actually, even through time, you're connecting to this, very ancient practice that then you can experience in your own life. Was just, mind blowing. That really does exist. It really is possible to kind of connect to that.
Yeah, I felt like we were remembering this path that we maybe had been on in previous lifetimes, and just found it again. And through all of the things that were going on in our lives, all of it was actually perfect and leading us to this moment where now we rediscovered it, and it's like, yeah, now let's go,
Here it is again. Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Continue on.
Back on it with these new
Uh-huh.
things that we've learned, and this, this, who knows, maybe this career as an artist is new, or just picking up from, maybe we were painting temples in Thailand or something like that from long ago. It just felt like this new reconnection, and just like life starts now.
Mhm.
Was really what it felt like. So yeah, Matt had started taking the path to Kriya Yoga along with me in 2018, and another big pivotal moment was we started doing. We've done a few now Bufo ceremonies together with the plant medicine, the Bufo alvarius toad. It is, we've talked about it before on the podcast, as the most potent psychedelic compound known to man.
Yeah.
And
the highest slide in the water park.
yeah, our friend Chris Deese, he put it really well at that highest slide in the water park. Yeah, so we had done one journey with it, and then and this was our friend Daniel Barojas, a good friend of ours, that he was the first one in our group to experience it, and it was pretty early on of hearing about Bufo, and he had, he already had a contact with a great source that we could trust, and so he was the one to dive into it first, and he had such a great experience with it. So we started working with that medicine. And this second experience that we had together with it was a really pivotal, profound. I think it was an earthquake.
Yeah. The first experience, my first experience with it, was super profound, and I didn't go back to reality for a few days. And so it completely changed my whole mindset. Changed it even changed my musical tastes in a way, where I was just like, all of a sudden chanting and mantras and all these things like really started sounding much more full than anything I'd ever heard before. And so that was an interesting part of it, but also it just completely rocked my world. And then going back into reality for a little while, and then had made some plans, and then we had a second ceremony planned with our friend Rob, who was going through a lot of physical ailments and a lot of just needed a mindset change as well, and had expressed that. And so you had told him about this ceremony, and then so it was like I was up here in St. Pete, actually pet sitting for our friend Chris, and then that weekend was the ceremony. And so we met up with Rob at his framing shop, and then brought him over to the ceremony. And
Rob had arthritis in both hips. He could barely walk. He had done a heroic ayahuasca journey with me maybe a year or so previous, maybe even more than a year. And he just wasn't able to go through, couldn't conceive of all of the physical effort that it would take to do another ayahuasca ceremony. So I would come in and I would get a lot of stuff framed at his shop. And I was, talking to him. I was like, wow, there's this other medicine that it's a short duration. I'll just, I'll find some way to like wheel you out into the property. And you just, it's so much less of a physical, taxing on your body than ayahuasca. And I think this is the spark that would really be good for you, so he was open to join us on that one.
And that was a brave undertaking in itself, because that is a full leap, if you will, off a cliff, off of something. But really, but then you end up flying, so it's great. But and so that one was it's interesting too to point out. It's like I had just began a little bit into the path of Kriya meditations in my first experience, but that was still a very turbulent experience for me. And then the difference between that experience, and the second time having a little longer time with the meditation under my belt, and really like realizing how to control the energy in the body. And then so from those practices, and then using those practices during the medicine was a world of difference. And then so that really kind of like solidified the whole thing of like, oh yeah, this is the right practice to be doing, because first time I was, all over the place, ended up with marks on my face and the whole thing, and to just sitting with the medicine and looking at the healer, and then just merging into complete oneness. And I remember just saying like, oh, really? Like, yeah, it just keeps getting more and more incredible, and just really being able to solidify with that experience, and then coming back into a world like, oh yeah, I remember that's what happens. That's what that medicine really shows you, is you remember what the whole thing culminates to. That's what it feels like.
Yeah, that was similar for me. Like I saw every single moment in my life leading to the next moment, to the next moment, to the next moment, and then realizing all along it was me, myself, that was putting every single situation in front of me, and I saw the reason for everything. And that verse from the Bible, like, I know every hair on your head, kind of an idea. Like, I know everything about. I've been with you all along. Every single moment in your life has led you to now, and it's just like, wow, wow, and just appreciation for all of it. The hard times, the good times, all of it is just so perfect. And then I remember just having those times where we were just feeling that together, that perfection, and looking out into the nature, onto the river that we were at, and just feeling that. So the experience was incredible. And then after that, you were planning to move to Colorado.
Yes.
Soon after that. I think couple of days, maybe 2 days after that, you were planning to move to Colorado. You had your stuff all packed and ready to go.
Yeah, and then so I had full experience with the first Bufo, and then that changed everything. Changed my course of understanding. Changed I fully packed my room, and I repainted the room that I was previously living in, prepared it to move out, and then was putting stuff in my my 1996 Nissan truck that I was going to tie a trailer to and throw all my stuff in, and then was going to go across the country to Colorado. And so this was the plan. Turns out that week there was going to be a whole mess of storms moving across the country, and there were tornadoes and all these kinds of things that I probably would have been driving through if I tried to make that trek. But so I had this whole kind of basically mental breakdown before trying to do that, and I was up here in St. Pete, and then kind of had met up with you, and then we had dinner with our friend Daniel Barojas, and then after that I was talking to you guys, and kind of got in like a full panic attack just came over me. And then so I ended up staying up here that night, and then the next day you had built the wall for the first mural that you were working on. And then so I
remember at that time was like, I was really worried about you. Like, I didn't know what was happening.
I was
because I mean, Matt was just in this state where he couldn't even talk. Like, you were just completely frozen with just panic attack, freaking out internally and not knowing even how to communicate what you're feeling. So I didn't know what it was like, I was like, whatever it is, just like tell me, like, I don't, so I remember like feeling that, and our good friend Daniel Brojas, he was really great, and I think you spent the night over at his place, and we were just trying to help out in that way. And then I had this practice wall in my backyard because I had started painting murals. So I would do practice testing, painting murals in the backyard. So I was just like, hey, Matt, just, come over. And at this point, you were painting houses. That was the profession. So so you knew your way around a brush and a bucket of paint and that
Mhm.
sort of thing. So I was just like, yeah, just come over, and I've got an outline on this wall. I'm practicing for an upcoming mural. Just come over and just paint it with me for a little while till you can talk again.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And then I remember, yeah, working on that wall, and then I was standing up on the ladder and just like painting this, with a 1-inch brush, just painting this line. And then there was like a breeze and I looked out, there was birds singing, and just had this moment of just like, oh, like this is really great.
Mhm.
And like, oh, even just, it was just that moment. There was no idea of the future necessarily in it, but it was just like, oh, this is great. And then I remember after we were done, it was like, oh, you're like pretty good at this. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we were like, oh, I have this mural coming up. And like, yeah, that would be cool. And then
Mhm.
that kind of like gave me a little bit of strength back. Like, okay, there's something to do in the future. There's a reason why, whatever happened. And then kind of like allowed me to put my mind back together. I went back to painting houses and pressure cleaning and all the
Mhm.
manual labor that I'd been doing. And
Yeah, but I remember, so it was like when we were painting that wall in the backyard. Yeah, I was like, wow, like, yeah, you're actually better at this than I am, you know? um, and so, yeah, so then that memory of that vision that I saw of us doing painting murals and working together was coming back. So I was like, okay, yeah, because I was a little, disappointed that you were moving to Colorado, because I was like, oh, okay, well, that vision's not going to happen. And I didn't want to like steer you in any other direction. I wanted to let you live your life and do what you wanted to do. So so then it was like, okay, and it's still at that point, like I didn't have, like, it's not like I had consistent work. Like I'm barely supporting myself on making art. This is also, it's like, yeah, so in kind of treacherous times here on planet Earth for making art. So it's not like I had, like I could hire you right away. But it was like, yeah, okay, all right, so yeah, he can do this. We can maybe do this. So we started. So I was like, yeah. So this artwork that's on this wall right now, like I am practicing for a painting, the first mural that I'll be painting on my own, and it's for the Shine Mural Festival, which my wife and I curate. And I've been working on the festival for 4 years, always assisting, and I had never on my own. I've been working with friends like the Vitali brothers to paint murals, and my friend Basque, and showing me the ropes, but I had never done one on my own yet from start to finish. And I had planned to do this one upcoming on my own. For the 4 years during the Shine Mural Festival, I got to watch all of these world-class artists and see their different approaches and how everybody had their own magic trick, a way that they were able to do it. And it was always like helping me craft like my own process. And I learned to drive lifts and get over my fear of heights and at that point I had to be the guy who could show up and fix your lift. I could be the guy who gets you out of trouble. If you had something that you needed, I would go get it for you. And so learning all of that for 4 years was like my college for painting murals.
Mhm.
And then so I was ready to do one on my own. And then that was when we started painting that one together as the practice. And then it was like, okay, Matt, like if you're down, like I think we should paint this wall together.
Mhm.
I want to make this thing as detailed and as professional as humanly possible. We get 9 days to paint a mural during the festival. When we're So we were practicing towards that. We're not only painting, this is only not your first time painting artwork in this way, but now we have to.
Immediately professionally. And I remember when you first sent me like, this is what we're gonna paint on the wall, and I was like, oh yeah, totally.
Right.
And like, oh yeah, I remember just like kind of this cold feeling coming over, like, oh, I gotta be able to do that.
Mhm.
And and so then you came up here and we started working on that practice wall, so we put it into, 4 sections or however many sections that we needed to kind of like timeline it out, and so that we could know how long it's actually going to take us to do this. So we have 9 days. How long can we actually do this in? I think it took us like at least that long just to do it on the practice mural, which was a practice wall, and then that wasn't even the full mural, and we weren't on lifts, and we weren't outside. Yeah. It didn't rain on us.
So it's like we're doing this as fast as we can, but when we're doing it on the real one, we need to do it better and faster. Yeah. And I had a little bit of training with this before. My my apprentice, my partner that was working with me, she was the one that came up with the idea to build the wall in my backyard. And so I was like, okay, she was kind of nagging me about it. When are we going to do it? When are we going to do it? Kat Gomez. And so I was like, okay, I'm building the wall this weekend. I'm going to start building this wall. And as soon as I had the wall built, I got a call from one of my clients, Keith Koenig from Danny Wimmer. And he's like, I got this project. I want you to paint live at Sonic Temple. I got these pillars. They're 4 foot they're 8 foot by 16 foot, which was exactly the size of the wall that I built, only horizontal. These ones were going to be vertical. And you're going to, it's 4 sides and, it's 3 days. And I'm like, okay, this seems like fate. Yes, I'll do it. No, and at that point, I had never done that before. I never painted a mural on my own. I had never painted live in front of an audience. And so, yeah, I was used to that. And Kat was really good in a similar way that you are, of like getting me excited and feeling confident about shit that I can't do yet.
Like, of course we can do this.
Yeah. So, and Kat had been along with me on this journey of helping out with Shine and stuff. So we were getting used to watching what it took to be a world-class artist, and the type of mentality that you would have, the type of hours that you would put in, the obstacles that you would overcome. So we were in that kind of a mindset. And then I found, like that you had the same kind of mindset of like really wanting to go all in on this. So as we were painting this practice one together, it was like, okay, yeah, we can do this. And as, as we decided that we were going to do this, we were painting this wall. I could feel like, I know you and I are very empathic with each other and with a lot of other people. As we were painting, we're having a good time and we're enjoying this, but I could feel the fear that you had about this, and I'm just like painting with you and I'm sensing it. And I was like, you're scared, right? You're really scared, and then you're like, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, I know that feeling really well. Like, cause I had just done that and I'd been in that state of mind where it was like, yes, I'm really scared, but I know that this is going to work. I've seen it in my mind. And yeah, and so I guess you could explain your feeling there.
Yeah, and that's what I kind of was telling you. Like, it was going back to days of skateboarding or days of riding mountain bikes on like new trails that I hadn't ridden before. That have really steep declines and inclines, and it's like you don't get to think about not making it, or else you get seriously hurt on a mountain or skateboarding too. You have to commit to what you're rolling up to, and so that's what it was. It was just like and I was like you're saying. I remember just feeling like tense, and just like looking very intently at each line that I'm making and all these things, and like but then at the same time, it would be like remembering like, oh, this is the most fun thing. Like, this is something I really want to do. So it's just like, oh, you can relax into it and know that we're going to complete this wall, And especially with that first one, knowing that when we did it was like, okay, it has to be faster. And there's all these other new factors on it. And then even people would, because it's a festival, so people are walking around seeing everybody painting. People would come up like, are you sure you're gonna finish this? It's like, yes, yeah, we are.
Yeah,
yeah. Like, just keeping that mindset, like no matter what, like yeah, we're gonna finish this, even though it looks impossible. But
Yeah, and that's why I learned, like, you and I could together get into this flow state and this mindset where no one can tell us nothing about not being able to finish this. Like, we're going to do this. I've already seen it. We were also at that point, we were listening to a podcast that was really inspiring. This guy Noah Lampert, which he was talking about this idea of imagination creates reality that we were both tuning into really heavily. Do you remember the name of the philosopher that?
Neville Goddard.
Yeah, Neville Goddard. He was getting into Neville Goddard really heavily and sharing this idea that your imagination, if you can see it in your imagination, you can feel yourself there and really go there in your mind, then there's nothing that can stop you from doing it if you put in the work and effort to do that. So we were getting into that mindset combined with what we were learning from our teachers at Ananda and Yogananda. Really, I mean, like, all of this was just the same thing for us. It was your inner world, the feeling that you have inside is getting reflected to you like a mirror. Like, everything in the outside world is just a big mirror of what you're feeling, what you're believing. Your perception of reality is just getting reflected back to you. So we were getting very heavily into tuning ourselves to that mindset, using our meditations to create concentration, and then moving that concentration, meditation, flow mindset into painting. So while we wanted to freak out, and we were feeling the bigness of, like, having to pull something off like this, because this mural festival that we were in, some of the artists, it's like Low Bros, Drew Merritt, Morning Breath, Shock One, Paulo Delphin, Taj Tenfold, Blaine Fontana, George Rose. The list goes on of, like, all of these, like, top level world class muralists that we're going to be, rubbing shoulders with and putting our work on display with theirs.
Yeah. And so, like you're saying, going from painting houses to immediately, this is the first thing you're painting next to those people, it was, overwhelming to say the least. But but that it was those mindsets and realizing that this is something that makes me not only happy, but, like, fulfilled. I remember even painting that wall and just, like, and when working with those mindsets of, like, oh, if you can get yourself into the feeling that you want to be in, then that draws you towards that future. And I remember even just, like, looking at my hand while painting one day and then being like, oh, this is a future I imagined and now I'm standing in it, and then it's like, oh, now I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to keep imagining these futures, and then we would do that. We were even, doing that with the weather and drawing towards the weather that we needed,
that was really cool.
People were like, it's going to rain today. We're like, no, it doesn't rain today. I already saw it, and then we would make that happen,
Noah was like, he was describing some of the techniques for really using your imagination to create your reality. So we were like, I bet we could do that with the weather, because every year during Shine, we're here in Florida, and it usually is in hurricane season. It's going to rain somewhere. It's gonna be raining some few days during the festival, but we needed every single hour that we had, just to be fully focused on that wall. So it was funny. It was like we were maybe 6 days into it, and we just finished a long night of painting, and we came home, and for whatever reason, the TV was on, and don't ever
turn the TV.
Well, the news is never on the TV. That most definitely,
right.
And there was, for whatever reason, the
broadcast.
This like weather forecast was on the TV, and we were just, and it was just like, if you got plans for these next 3 days or whatever, it's just going to be pouring, so just cancel them or whatever.
It was some, like, ominous thing that this weatherman just happened to be saying as soon as we got home.
And I was just like, turn that off. So we turned it, and we were just like, no, like, you're wrong. It's not going to rain on us. And so we turned that off, and then I remember you and we spent like a half an hour listening to some binaural beats and just imagining the next day, imagining feeling what it was going to be like. We were like, okay, well, it's definitely going to be cloudy.
Yeah,
So,
you
but
have
that's
to make
good.
it practical. What you can envision. Like, okay, maybe it's not going to rain, but there has to be clouds in the sky. I can make that happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I used that moment too, where I was looking at my hand and it was a sunny day that day, and I was like, okay, I can envision that happening again. So it was set into that, like, oh, okay, we're gonna be painting and this beautiful sunny. There's a couple clouds in the sky though. Okay, great, yeah, I can see that happening. And we did that, and then the next day, that's the weather we got.
Yeah. It was just overcast, which was great because it was cooler that day. So we were able to like work and have, in a more pleasant environment. And then the next day, it was just like, there was just no doubt, like it was even worse. Like it's definitely going to rain, like you're pulling up, it's drizzling on your way to the wall. We're going by other friends that are painting walls, and they're like, well, we're just going to take the day off, I guess, because it's not, it's not going to.
We don't have time to do
And
that.
then we're just like, no, we're going to our wall and we're painting today. And
people kept coming over like, oh, it's raining over at this person's wall. Oh, it's definitely, why are you guys painting today?
Yeah, I remember like we were driving by and people like are seeing us in the car. I was like, what are you doing? You shouldn't go, don't bother, it's raining. Like, no, it's not. So then we pulled up to our wall, and it just happened to be like a little area of wasn't raining on us. So we get set up, and we just keep going. And then I remember at one point it did start raining, but
it was blowing the opposite direction of the wall.
Yeah.
So we weren't actually getting rained on.
Yeah, the wind was blowing so hard that it was raining, but the rain was blowing over our heads, and we were still there painting. And we just kept going, and then it stopped, and then we just kept going.
Yeah.
So like that really just for us, it just set out, okay, this is the way we're going to work. This is the mindset that we're going to have. That was like such a pivotal time in my life and my career for having a mindset. It was so wonderful. And we even like by the third day of doing this, we got a little bit, we wanted to start playing with it a little bit. I remember, so it was like, okay, tonight when we imagine it, let's imagine it being really good for everybody today, not just us. But then right at the end, let's just have it just rain like a little bit on Drew Merritt.
Because he was making fun of us for talking about controlling the weather. So.
Yeah, right. So we're just like, all right, we'll just have it rain on him a little bit. We were just playing around, like we were having fun with everybody, So, and we didn't mention it to him or to anybody that we had this kind of like thought that was going through our mind. And so, we had another great day of painting and no rain. And then that night we got dinner with everybody, and everybody was telling stories. And I remember, so the low bros were like on one side, which is probably maybe 50 feet in between their walls.
It's like a parking lot in between.
Two big walls. Yeah, low bros on one side, Drew Merritt on the other. And then the low bros were like telling this story about like, oh man, it was great. Like today was really great. The weather was a bit cooler with the overcast. But just like right at the end, as Drew Merritt is like signing his name, it starts raining on him, and then us over here, it's dry.
When we heard that story, just like couldn't help it. Like, oh wow.
We just started laughing. I don't even think we like said it to them because it just sounded too crazy. It was just our own sort of like inside joke. So that was really fun.
These practices really work. It is positive, and it's like all of that. It's like, is it all coincidence? No, maybe. That's all you could say that, but it was pretty incredible coincidences for it all to line up the way we had imagined it, for it all to like be exactly the way we needed it to finish that wall, and to see ourselves like be able to push ourselves to those limits. limits, and while having that much fun, and while being able to like put ourselves into that positive mindset, like, okay, this is what's going to happen. And then, and we were still painting up to the moment when they were taking the final shots, and everybody had to leave and all this stuff.
Yeah, right down to the wire.
Yeah. So it took all the effort, but still made it happen.
Yeah, it always feels good to do that. So I highly recommend, like, for anybody watching this to really, if you've got projects coming up, like, put yourself there, feel what it's like for it to get completed, have the feeling of accomplishment, see the beauty of the completed work that you're going to do, and feel it and experience that before you go do it. I don't hardly do anything now without doing that first. And so that was a super pivotal moment. So after we painted that wall for Shine, you were still living down in Venice. And when we did so this was like back when we had that Buffo experience together and all of that kind of stuff, you were still living in Venice. And when we were there with our friend Rob that we mentioned at the Buffo ceremony, right? He had a great healing experience from it, got a really incredible mindset from it. But then in the morning he calls me back. He's like, he was feeling so great and wonderful, woke up like feeling incredible. And then he's like, he owns a frame shop that I get a lot of things framed at. And he was like, Chris, like, I don't know what's going on. Like, 2 of my framers just quit this morning, and I'm like in a super bind. I don't know what to do. And this was at the point where you were trying to figure out, like, how can I move to St. Pete? I don't have a job. I don't have a place to stay.
And and at the finale for that Shine mural was they do a big party at the end of it, and then our friend Daniel and his wife Ganesha had approached me and was like, yeah, if you're ever thinking about moving up here, we usually rent out this room, and we'd love to have you if you want to like get on your feet up here. You can stay there for a little while. And then so I was like, oh yeah, that sounds great, And it was really, but I didn't know how I would make that happen. I was like, oh, that's cool, but this was another thing that I had to like really next gear of using these imagination techniques to like move into that idea. So it's like, oh, okay, that'd be great, but I don't know how it's gonna happen. And then I had that, went to this ceremony, and then I just happened to be also pet sitting that week for a friend Chris, and then and then the ceremony, and then next day Rob's like, oh, these people just quit on me. I have nobody to run the shop now. And then I think he had one person working there. And then so Chris was like, oh, that's great. My brother's looking for a job.
And he's pet sitting in St. Pete. So I'm going to send him over to see you right now.
I was already there. So I was like, went over there, and he's like, yeah, job's yours.
And you had never framed anything in your life.
No.
This is brand new, but you're a fast learner. So I knew that you could figure it out.
Yeah. And that was also, there's a lot of pressure on all of that, and I had to, learn this and again be learning and doing professionally all at the same time. So, and he had a project where it was doing a lot of the same thing over and over again for I think he had a project for the Dolly Museum where you're making a bunch of little ones. So that's where I started, was making a bunch of small frames all at the same. So it was just like, learn this as fast and as, make each one again, just doing the same thing over and over. So it was a good way to learn the process. But yeah, so it's just like everything just lined up super synchronistically in a way that was, mind blowing, from something I couldn't imagine happening to all of a sudden, like, all these things. And then so like went over and saw Daniel and Ganesha and was like, hey, so I happened to get a job. Like, can I still live in that room for a little while? And then they were like, yeah, you could like stay there for like 3 months or something, maybe a year, that could be okay. But, and I was like, oh yeah, whatever you can do, that'd be great,
Like, it was so great. Like, I was so grateful to our friends, like being able to do that, at that time. It was just like, wow, all this stuff is lining up. This vision, that imagination creates reality, is so real. Like just watching it like happen, and just every time something seemingly terrible happens, just like, no, it's just shifting and changing so that this thing that I had in my mind, can come to reality, you know?
And that thing that Noah would always say too, where he's like, you remember that, like, oh no, this is what happens right before everything gets good. Like really, really remembering that that's how it works. Like you go through a little bit of a lull, and that's when everything picks up. And it's like, if you can remember that, if you can put yourself into that feeling, like, oh, what happens? Oh yeah, it gets really great after this. You know?
Cool.
Remembering that, it was really, really necessary in that time. And then that's what really happened. You know?
So yeah, everything was like, okay, now, so you had a job here in St. Pete near me. Daniel lives right down the street. Rob would let you have time off anytime I needed help doing things that I needed. So it was just like, wow, this is great. This is happening. So we quickly started working on quite a bit of projects together. And it was really helpful for me too that you had a job, because oftentimes a lot of these things that I work on, I don't really get paid for. Like making gallery art is such a gamble. Doing murals, hardly any money most of the time. And so we were able to work on these passion projects. And I had been really feeling strongly about moving into painting. And for 20 years, I had been a professional digital illustrator working on brands, had an agent in New York, and was working on a lot of big brands and things like that were paying my bills. But I was really feeling strongly that I wanted to move away from that and to really pursue my meditation practice and move that meditation practice into making sacred art and working with deities. You were feeling that strongly as well as something that you wanted to do. And so it was in 2020 during the lockdowns that I made this big decision to let go of my agent, to tell all my clients that I'm no longer working on brand artwork, and I'm going to be pursuing this dream, this vision. And this is another time again where it's like you're sort of my enabler, you know. Of course, yeah, we should do that. Yeah, of course, that sounds perfect.
To do that.
Yeah, it's the only way.
It's the sacrifice to the gods that we make,
right? Yeah,
and then they open the gate.
And I remember you said you. I remember you were listening to a podcast. That had it kind of put it into perspective, you know.
Yeah, and it was later on, but I heard this person say when he had been thinking about quitting his music career and just walking across the country. And I'm forgetting his name now, so forgive me, but it is. And then he said he called his agent and said yeah, I'm thinking about doing this. Is this a good idea? And then his agent was telling him, no, you're crazy. Why would you do that? And he's like hung up the phone with him, and he's like, but then I called my friend who was like always down for like big ideas. I called him, and he was like, oh no, that's great. He's like, what's great? He's like, it's great that your agent thinks you're crazy. And he's like, because not all crazy ideas are good, but all good ideas are crazy. He's like, oh, good, yeah, all right, then let's do this. You know? So it takes a little bit of crazy to make the right decision to like move you to the next level of what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, because if you're gonna do something great, it has to feel completely insane.
You have to be stepping outside of your comfort zone, outside of what you're used to. That's what makes it. That's when you know you're expanding. You're actually you're moving into the next level when you feel that crazy a little bit.
Yeah. So that was like sort of I was feeling it really strongly, and wanting to move in that direction. So yeah, having my enabler here helping with that and having somebody to talk to about it, and taking that leap was really important. And also too, like our meditations and the affirmations that we were doing with Ananda, there's a really great one from Swami Kriyananda that I've been sharing with the group and practicing, for how to tell the difference between inspiration that comes from our higher self and inspiration that comes from our emotions or our lower self, and really learning how to feel whether something is our dharma or if it's something that we're just sort of getting carried away with and isn't really meant to be. And putting that into practice regularly in meditation and just feeling that impulse for that was growing stronger. If the idea is a bad idea, the impulse for it will actually grow weaker and you'll just naturally not want to do it anymore. But this was growing stronger and stronger. So, and I was tested, there was these projects that were, I was about to, I was talking to my agent and telling them where I'm headed with my career and that I'm going to be moving away from commercial work. And they would call me like, "Whoa, we just got this big job that came in," and it was like stuff that I really would have wanted to do, and there was like a big price tag associated with it, and it's only going to take you 2 weeks. Like, come on, you should do this. And I was just like, "Nah, I said I wasn't going to do it. Like I said I was going to stick to it." And I just decided like, all right, I'm going to keep going with this. No, sorry. Like I'm really serious about this. And it was a huge thing for me to have to do that, because it was a dream of mine to get hired by this agent and to be working on things like this. But my heart just wasn't in it anymore to be doing the commercial work. And I was feeling really called to working with the deities and wanting to work with you in the same way that we were painting this mural.
Yeah. And I remember those moments and conversations of like feeling all of that, and being like, telling you that like, yeah, that's the right idea to do, basically like telling you to like, just change everything. Yeah. Like everything that's been supporting you, like, yeah, let's like not do that anymore. Like, wait, that is a little bit crazy, but it was just like, no, this is what is necessary to be able to move into what we're doing, because it does have a lot of weight behind it, as like our whole lives are shifting to be able to do this, and it is part of everything that we're moving our lives into. So it was the necessary thing to do to move into the next stage of life that we're doing now. And I remember the weight of that and how it was like, no, but this is what needs to happen.
It was really powerful. And now seeing the way that it's going to be happening, moving into, this project of Seekers of the Eternal, seeing how Seekers of the Eternal is growing and expanding and becoming what it is now with the new capabilities and tools that we have through Web3 and through NFTs, and building communities that really can get together around ideas and to be able to have all these new ways of sharing and growing. It's amazing to see what's happened from making those big, pivotal, courageous steps forward past the threshold guardians. The couple of the other timeline things that I've got here that I think would be fun to talk about. Right after that, it was the next project that we worked on together. And sometime after that, we started painting. It was the back of this music venue that I grew up going to shows to. You grew up going to shows at. It was called the State Theater. My band got to play some shows there, and that was really incredible experience to be able to perform there. And then getting to paint the back of this great theater that my friend Tess One and I had painted along with the Vitali brothers. So this was one of the early projects. We had painted it a long time ago. It was one of the first really big murals in St. Pete that was all just art based. And that was a really nice one to get to paint with my friends and kind of learn the ropes on. And then it was 7 years later that front of that there, the back of that building had to be resurfaced. So the old mural was gone, and Tess and I were going to repaint that mural. And as I was expressing this idea of what I wanted to paint on the back of that mural of that building and do a collaboration with Tess, he was so gracious, and he was just like, man, I love that idea so much. Like, I think I just want to let you paint that. I think you should really paint that. And so it was really nice encouragement for me, and feeling like, okay, yeah, like this is a really like a declaration of like where I want to go with the work. I want to be able to fully do this puja around these deities and invoke the presence of, this is Saraswati, the goddess of art and music and learning, and to really embody the teachings of that deity and to work with those forces of nature to paint this mural.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that one was a big, it was great to, like you're saying, work on that mural at that location, being somewhere that I'd gone to all growing up and seeing like most of the bands I went to see would be at the State Theater, and so there's like stomping grounds, and then like we get to paint the goddess of music on the back of it together. It was mind blowing. And then kind of how you had presented it as, when you have a community like St. Pete that has been coming up through the artwork that has been showcased here through Shine, and like all the artists that they brought in, and now there's all this like kind of, the city is building up, and so painting Saraswati there was about like, okay, now we have to keep focused on the artwork, keep focused on creativity and that mindset, and not get lost in the amount of money that's coming into the city because of all that artwork, And so putting that in such a pivotal place, in such a kind of, it's a big wall and kind of in the middle of downtown in that way. And so having that message there, I think really was a cool thing to be able to like put as a declaration in that place, and it also is a music venue. Having Saraswati there just makes so much sense as a kind of support and backing for what that place is, and then for what St. Pete has become as a whole was really, really special thing to work on. And
yeah, we did like we did a blessing there too. We did a meditation in front of the wall before it started. We did chants to Saraswati. We asked her to protect everything that makes the city that we're in good. Even, it's on the rise. It's changing really, really rapidly. There's so much growth and so much new construction and all this. But as we painted this, we were like, please protect the thing that makes this city great, which is the creativity and the creative flow and all the artists and music that is here. Like, let that still be the foundation of this place. And so we really wanted to put that into it. And the new owners it's still a music venue there. And this also gave me my first chance to talk to clients in this way, to be able to talk about these things that are very personal to me, and be able to talk about to a client and kind of get them on board with it and introduce them to the goddess and have them do their own research on it and get interested in this. And that's what I love to do with artwork, is to share new things that I'm really enthusiastic about, and then share them with other people, and then see them light up and learn like, oh wow, this is really cool and special, and have them feel grateful and have an appreciation for what we're going to paint on that wall. And so it was you, myself, and my other partner, Kat Gomez. We painted that wall together. And this was like during the pandemic. This was like right at the lockdown, kind of hardcore lockdowns. It was summer 2020. So we got to at least escape being inside and to go paint outside. And it was a real mind trip, like that whole time period. It was so unique. So yeah,
the building was still under construction, and so there was that was quite a, working in a whole different environment than we previously had painted the previous mural in. And so it was a journey for sure.
Yeah. I remember it was like, when we were there, it was such a mind trip, because like our only bathrooms were these like porta potties outside, and in downtown St. Pete, you're sharing the streets with the homeless community there too. So we were making a lot of friends with the street friends every day. Those are the people that we were hanging out with, like during the pandemic. None of us got COVID.
No. We were protected.
Yeah. So it was just really strange. But yeah, we were we were painting this mural in the same way. Three of us were just in this mindset. We were keeping ourselves protected. We knew why we were doing this. We had seen it completed. And it was really funny, even the construction workers that were working on the inside of the building, they were remodeling. So sometimes when we'd show up, they would have, all of their ladders and things and everything in front of our mural. And, they're just busy, everybody's in sort of a strange mindset during that time. And they're having difficulties with what they're working on and and I was just like, when we were in a very pleasant state of mind, really enjoying painting. And I remember one of the guys, I was like, hey man, I'm just going to be moving a few of these things over here. I just letting you know, I'm moving that over here, and he kind of responded really harshly to me. And
dude with like long hair and a beard and stuff.
Yeah.
It looked like he would vibe with us well, but yeah, he was in a whole other world at that moment.
Yeah. And then I just responded to him really sweetly or whatever. And then I remember like you and I we started talking to him, and then he like came outside and he was just like, whoa, have you guys been out here? You've been painting this all along?
Yeah, he had no idea we were there painting a mural.
Yeah. Like, wow, this is really beautiful. It was like he just like kind of like woke up for a second and just like, wow. And then, as we were talking to him, like he started talking about like how he does ayahuasca ceremonies and bufo and things like that. And so, yeah, I remember we had some really
like bufo toads in his backyard or something. like totally turned out to be this guy like otherworldly, And then he was like, oh, wow, yeah. Oh, yeah, I haven't sat in ceremony in so long. Oh, wow, yeah. It just like completely brought him out of his world. And then we were both kind of talking to him, and he got into some kind of argument with one of the other guys that he was talking to. And so then later me and him had to start having conversation, and then again, just kind of like, he was like, oh yeah, I'm really missing the ceremony. I need to sit in circle again. And like, oh yeah, I should start meditating again. He like left as a completely different person than he come in that day. So yeah, that was quite the experience.
Yeah, it's cool. Like using these practices and using painting to get into this state of mind and this calmness. And being able just to, you don't even have to say anything. You can just emanate that, and other people, just sort of snap out of it and wake up and remember what they've been working on, what their own goals are, and those kind of things. So it's really cool to be able to do that with artwork. And that has been the mindset. So we transitioned, we were painting these murals, and then I started getting these requests from collectors and from different people to do paintings for their house and for gallery shows. So right after we finished this big one with Saraswati, I got commissioned to do a door mural for a home. And so this was now our chance to take it from, okay, we learned how to do it big, and now let's take it down to a little, it's still big, but smaller. Yeah. And so this was like really our first time working on commission work for inside the home. And we had painted this mandala, and this was at a time where I was like, I'm phasing out my client work. I still had client work that I was doing. I was still working on these brand pieces and things and phasing that out and slowing that down. And so during this time, I was like, okay, Matt, okay, we know, we're painting with house paint on the walls. We had our process down for that. Now we're going to start painting these pieces for galleries and for in-home stuff. I need to figure out like, what brushes are we painting with? What is our medium? How can we achieve this look with tiny lines that we won't have to paint like 5 times to get the density that we want? Yeah. What kind of paints are we going to be using? What is that process? So Matt, like as I'm working on my digital work, I need you to start developing that process. And also too, at this point, I had moved out of my studio space downtown and moved into the house. And so you were working on transforming my garage into a
Right.
paint studio. So you were helping me a lot with that kind of a thing at that time.
Yeah, yeah, and so that was right when we were doing the Saraswati mural was when you got initiated into Kriya Yoga, and then so I was staying here and had taken the full 2 weeks off of the job that I was at, and then so we were just staying here in that mindset, painting every day, meditating every day, paint, meditate, and then I'd gotten into that mindset, and then right after we finished that is when it's then I had gone back to work, and then just like that environment just like completely threw me off when I like going back into that life, and it's just like I gotta this is not helping me. Just realize how much that was a detriment on my psyche and on everything. And so
yeah, creating that like contained environment when we were working on that, working on the paintings for the house. Like, let's stay there for a little bit. I think in that space where, okay, so it's like I was buying these different brushes and different materials, and then you would work on it and bring it in and like show me, and it was like, okay, try this, and then let's get it in, because I knew what I wanted it to look like, I knew what I wanted it to be, and it was like, how do we get it there, So you were just working, you were staying over here, we would meditate together, move that meditation into the paintings. And then, so, okay, we got our materials, we got our brushes, working with sign painting brushes and one shot, and getting the density down with that. It's an enamel paint. We were also painting with fluorescence. My friend Bask showed me some different fluorescence that we could use to get some good density with, because we're painting on black too. So we wanted to paint fluorescence and gold on black. So it was a kind of a tall order, and we wanted to paint these really thin lines and not have to repaint them a bunch of times. So there was a lot of technical things that we were dialing in there. So you got it to a point where I'm like, yeah, that's the look. And then I had a client who wanted a piece that was ready in time for Christmas. So there was like a hard deadline. I could not go past the timeline. And so, so you were painting that, and we were tag team painting that piece together. And it was really about the mindset. And I remember I was working on my digital work as you were getting started on the door mural and this mandala. And I remember the conversations that we were having, and the feeling during that time, if everybody remembers going back to those lockdown periods of 2020, it was just so strange and bizarre. But we were feeling it too. Like, don't get us wrong. Like, we were having so much turmoil and so much, things on the outside world that we were also dealing with. Even like while we were painting that Shine mural, my father-in-law that I've been taking care of for many years, who had Parkinson's disease and cancer, like I couldn't leave him for more than 4 hours a day. So I would, I would go paint, come back, be with him, make sure he's okay, go out, come back. And then even during that time, like he had a big episode where he had passed out when I came and saw him, and I had to deal with that and call the ambulance and all this kind of stuff that we were dealing with. And even in between that period, like during this period of time, as he started having his decline, it was about 9 days of just full-on care for him until he passed away at the beginning of the year. So there was so many things happening in between all of this that we were dealing. It wasn't just painting. I think a lot of times. So it was, how can we have all of these things that are going on in our personal lives, all of these inner demons that we're battling, while you're on the path to Kriya Yoga? It's a daily battle with all of the versions of yourself that you're having to kill, and they're all fighting for their lives. So you're going through this just complete mental battle. But then when we're painting, when we're meditating, can we be calm, sweet, and happy? So what I was saying to you is like, as we're painting this piece that's going to go into somebody's house, I want them to feel calm, sweet, and happy when they're looking at it. I want that to be the bhav, the vibration that's coming from this. So as we're putting down these lines, we're chanting our japa, our mantra. And if you're enjoying watching that line go down with a sense of calmness, sweetness, and happiness, then that's what people are going to feel when they look at it, you know? So,
yeah. And that's what really made it possible for me to accept, like, oh, now I'm doing this, painting that's going to be in someone's house, it was like getting from that stage of just like letting go of any part of myself that didn't think it was possible. And then just having to move into, okay, now it's going to be good because it's being done with this energy. It's being, and then really just flowing into that idea and working from that space. And so, and just wanting to put that energy into the paintings, and so each time then like you're saying, it's like, all right, now we're working with this new medium, these new brushes, these, the whole thing, learning how to use a mall stick while painting. And so it's like all these things brand new and immediate and trying to get it done in this time frame. And, so it was a lot of time just sitting and working with that, and having a part of it that I could work on over here, and then a part of it that I was like, okay, here's the real painting. So it was like figuring out how to do it, then doing it, and then figure out how to do it.
Yeah, having the practice one next to you, getting it down, getting your breathing right, and then bring it over to the final piece. Yeah, and I was so shocked, like, because I was having these lofty mind journeys when I'm working on my digital work, and then I would come say it to you, and then I was like actually really shocked that you would take what I said and then go do it.
Yeah.
So like that was really cool, and then I would watch you do it, and then I was like, I could do that, I could do that too, so you would do it possible. And then I would learn how to do it. You would show me what you did, and then I would learn how to do it. How do you get the paint on the brush in the proper way? What shape do you make the brush when you get it? How do you pull the line so that enough paint comes off the brush? And all of those things, were part of it. And what I was just like, wow, okay, cool. Like you were such a fast learner. And it was because you wanted it so badly, and it was so therapeutic when you were doing it, that it was, I think that's what it takes to get into a flow state. You got to want it, something that you really want badly, that you really enjoy. You got to have like some kind of like hard pressure to succeed. Failure is not an option.
Right. Yeah. It was couldn't not make it to have this completed painting at Christmas time. It's right. Like, of course we're going to do that. Yeah. And it's going to look great. All these things had to come together, and just like, it was like some of the, like you said, it's like the mental turmoil, the whole thing, like your mind always wants to tell you you're not good enough, or who are you to be doing this, something like that, all those things were, but had to get rid of all of that to be able to pull off even just like a single line. There was times I'd be working on that, and I'd be just working, and get to a point I was like, okay, I have to step back, breathe, do the meditative practices, and then like, okay, now I'm ready again to paint again. So that really learning how to work like that. And I remember even working, and it would take me so long just to do certain small sections of it, and then one night I just stayed there the longest, like all day, painting through the night, and then just like saw that like in a certain amount of time, like all of a sudden I just like got faster at it. I was making the lines a lot more fluid. It was like, that's what really feeling how to move into that flow state with the painting. And like it was just listening to Saraswati mantra the whole time, just being like, okay, that's the energy that's going into this, and so really stepping into that, and fully with that door painting. It's cool that it was a door too, because it really
it was a portal. We had to deliver this portal, this like sense of hope during the we there's a lot of richness into the, I think as all artists we have these really lofty meanings and energy that we're putting into it. So it just seems so grand, like as we're doing it. It's like we have to deliver this beacon of hope to these people, or for our own self, we need to prove that we can pull this off even in the most difficult of times, and prove that these meditation practices are real. Another secret to our success is we do these, they're called yogoda, or energization exercises that Paramhansa Yogananda taught, that recharge the body like a battery. And so whenever we're feeling tired and feel like we can't keep going, we go do exercises for 30 minutes, which seems like the opposite of what you should do. But when you come back, it's like we're ready to go again. So I want to, later on, probably we'll record some videos of us doing these things in the future, of teaching people how to do those exercises too, because they're so powerful for that. And as we were, like that, painting that mural, that was a great step down, or painting that door piece was a great step down from the murals to painting the in-home piece. So it was all kind of like, just like in that Bufo like experience, watching your life, like each step is perfect,
leads to the next point.
Even the challenges, those are like teaching us what we need to know, and giving us the character that we can give back to people. Because I feel like if you just lived a life where everything went so smooth and glorious, and you were in an astral world and there was no mosquitoes and the birds were singing and everything was going smoothly for your life, what message can you help share with those who are struggling? Like, what are you, the smile that you give to somebody when you're giving them a smile, and that they know that you've seen some shit, you've been through some shit, but you're still smiling, I think is so much more powerful. And that the next project that we moved into from painting the door mural is, there's some other little paintings. We started doing like 1x1s for ABV Gallery, Greg Mike's gallery in Atlanta, and some 2x2s and things like that. They were all perfectly timed to teach us what we needed to learn. But I got this project for the fairgrounds here in St. Pete, which was a fully immersive room. And it was a playground to put as much energy into it as we wanted to. And this was the big project that we had over the pandemic to put all of our time and effort into. And I brought Kat Gomez back again to paint the wall murals inside that space. It was under construction at the time, so it was kind of a chaotic. We were wearing hard hats, neon vests and hard hats. Masks. We had to all wear masks. So it was like, just felt like you're Darth Vader in here, like trying to paint this, what we knew was a place of healing and a place of peace and love that people would enter in and feel. But at the time, it was like loud music and people, arguing over construction projects.
Yeah. So just constant construction noise and, hammers and drills and everything you can imagine. Just like while we're trying to play Mongolian throat singing music and paint this mural.
Yeah. It was a wild time. There were so many things in our life, just situations that were bubbling up that we had to deal with. And it was just like, but when we're in front of that wall, like the three of us are going to be there giving it everything that we got. We're going to be giving it our hearts. We're going to calm our minds, and we're going to put everything into this painting. It was a super cathartic, super challenge. It wasn't at all the way that I thought it was going to be when we were painting that space. But man, it's kind of like I wouldn't trade it. It happened in a perfect way. And completing the murals inside that space. And then we went straight from that to painting this 7-foot version of Shiva and Parvati, the half masculine, half feminine Ardhanarishvara, one of the most powerful, iconic images that I could imagine. And we wanted to do it justice, and we wanted to paint it right. We were also creating these hand-painted frames for these infinity mirror portals with LED lighting other things that I had never done before that I've always wanted to do. 3D printed sculpture cobra pieces that our younger brother was creating based on drawings, and spinning lanterns and stained glass.
Yeah.
All of these things. And then I worked with other friends on, the lantern and the stained glass, just bringing in other friends of ours to help create those pieces with us. But the hand painted work, it was just like a whole other journey. It was like, okay, now we're painting these indoor pieces. People are like right up close on them. These are very intricate lines. We're also doing faces and hands and geometric work, circles, dots, all of this stuff that was like, you had to nail it.
And again, using fluorescent paint this is the first time we used that fluorescent paint. It had to be layered in a whole nother way. And so we're doing those parts like 3 or 4 times. Yeah. And then, still trying to get it all to come out exactly the way we want it to look was quite the mission.
Yeah. And I had spent like the money that I was getting for the whole project, I put all of that money into the production pieces. So the big the material that I was getting, I was making sure that it was all like super archival and would last a long time, and getting them router cut, and then having friends, my friend Heinz was building the infinity mirror boxes, and so there was so much on the line with this. It was like, so much money and everything into it. We weren't getting, I was trying to pay you as much as I could to be here with me doing it. I was putting my kind of savings into pulling this thing off, because I just knew that this was a special opportunity to really show what we could do, and to also create something for others during that time, once the pandemic was over and they could come back out into going out again, to make this really special room. I also hired a friend of mine who created, he's a sound healer, and he created the medicine music for the space. So it was a fully sensory experience with sound, with visuals, with giving you that spiritual experience.
The music playing in the sound domes and the whole part of that. And it's pretty incredible on part of the fairgrounds too, because that was again during the middle of nothing open, and they're just like building this entire warehouse that's going to be a ton of people coming and doing this all. It's like kind of mind-blowing that they're even putting that energy into it. But so to make something like that, and then everybody believing like, no, the world's going to open up again and this is going to be great. And, so it's like, had to believe that. So it was cool to be in a group of people that were, really in that mindset too. Like, oh no, the world's going to come back on and we're all going to be doing cool stuff again. So it was like, again, like, all right, pulling that mindset off amidst, some of the most mental turmoil that I've been through. And, so it was quite the project. To see that now and see people's reaction to it and all of that is really, really cool to hear and get that feedback from people.
Yeah, that's what people were saying, is that they could feel that when they went there. They could feel that sense of healing and calmness that would come over, and that's what we were imagining and intending. Yeah, that's a good point. Being around a whole group of people that were in the darkest time, building behind the scenes, making things. And that's the way that we like to do it. The obstacle is the way. We talk about that on this podcast a lot. And being in this time during kind of the dark days of crypto and NFTs, where it had the boom, and now it's looking grim. But that's when you go to work. Like that's when you do your hardest work, knowing that this won't last, that it will come back again. And so always keeping that mindset. It's so much easier to go along and have enthusiasm and work on things when everything's going right, but it's when things are going lousy that you got to dig deep and continue moving forward with with the same amount of energy and love and all of that kind of stuff that you put into it. So yeah, pulling off that space was a wonderful thing, and I love being able to hear people's responses to the way it makes them feel.
Yeah, that's during those times when the true heart comes out, the true warriors show up to really still have that mindset, still see a positive future, and be like, no, we build in the ashes, and that's when the coolest things come up. So,
yeah. So there's like, feel blessed every time you get an opportunity to do that, and we're so grateful for everybody that's been finding this community and is listening to these podcasts. As it was seeming the darkest, is really, when we gave some shout outs to a lot of the people who have been spreading the word on the Seekers of the Eternal Web3 community, and starting to see that really strong growth coming, and hundreds of people a day joining the Discord. So it's really cool. Just when it seems the darkest is when the first rays of the light of the sun start to shine again. The other fun project, I think we'll end with this one. We've got so much, we could go on forever sharing all these, but just want to give you like really a sense of the way that Matt and I are working together, and the way that we're going to be connecting with you through this community. The last one I wanted to share was in November 2021. We got invited back to another Danny Wimmer Presents Music Festival opportunity. This was the Welcome to Rockville pillar murals that we painted, and this was another celebration of Saraswati, the goddess of art and music and learning, that we had really been channeling and tuning into to help us on our journey. So we wanted to create this. I wanted it to feel like a miracle that it was done in time. So it's a 4-day music festival. We had a 4-sided 16-foot tall by 8-foot 4-sided pillar, and we wanted to put as much energy into it so we showed up the day before. We outlined the pieces. We got the outlines up, and then we had to go hard as possible, with as much belief and faith as possible, to pull these off, because they were very intricate, and I was so happy to do it with you. Our friend Liam came. We also at the same time had a pop-up merch booth. I don't do pop-up merch booths really hardly ever, only in small fashion. So he jumped in and was doing the merch booth that was right next to us, and he was crushing it, like selling so much merch, and there was so much good energy, and we just were. It was great. He was going to get us food, and Keith was taking really good care of us. So we were showing up. We'd do our meditations in the morning, get some breakfast, and go hard from beginning to end. And it was fascinating. It was amazing. It was wonderful.
And it was incredible to, be working that way and making it actually happen, and then to be working at a metal festival and then people coming by and like getting really stoked on us painting artwork, painting birds and deities and mandalas. It's like, oh, they do really like this. Cool. And so it was cool to get that feedback, and people being like, oh, I just sat there and watched you guys paint for an hour. Like, oh, I don't know what just happened. Or it's like, oh, cool. People that maybe have never experienced live painting or hadn't seen somebody painting a mural before. So it was cool to introduce that in that environment, and seeing people really responding to it well was such a powerful experience. And then to learn that, like, oh, we can paint an 8 by 16 foot piece in one day.
It was unbelievable. Like, as we were, and we started on the, I don't know.
We had started with the more
the Saraswati
simple one. Well, we started with the hand, which was, to get the name so people know who's doing it and all that kind of stuff. So we started with that one, And then it was funny too, because as soon as we started, then people like came over and just started having conversations right next to us. And it was our other friend,
Yeah.
Josh, Hydra, was standing there watching us paint. Like, he's always like making jokes and stuff.
Yeah, it was like so much pressure.
Yeah, so first time we were doing any of it,
Mhm.
on this fashion, and we're just like, okay, yeah, it's as much pressure as we needed to like make it happen.
Yeah. Because you forget, like you make this thing in your mind, but it's like, oh no, you're in a music festival. You're surrounded by friends and fans and music fans and all of this kind of stuff that's like all part of it.
Yeah.
And you have to, at the same time while you're painting that, still be having like pleasant conversations, still taking photos with people, still doing all of these things that come along with it. The tent next to us all got COVID. And just keeping that mindset. Going the whole time, but like, no, we're not getting COVID.
Weather again with that one, and it would get freezing cold at night, and we're painting maybe 14 hours a day and sleeping for 3 to 4 hours maybe, and to make that happen. So
get up and do it again.
Yeah,
it was like while we were working on it, it was like we just had to keep and it was great too. Like Liam was encouraging us at the same time, like you're gonna do it, and but if anybody from the outside would see how much progress we were on when we were finishing the last couple of them, it would be like, there's no way you're finishing this in time. But we just kept like, no, just keep your head down, just keep painting, just keep painting, just keep painting. And then it's just a miracle. Like you step back and you're like, we just did that.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I didn't even know how it was possible that we did it. It seemed...
Didn't look possible.
Yeah. So, and like some of the stories just that like, I think that are kind of fun to share. Like there was like some, I don't even know which ones to go into. There was like so many different ones, but one of the interesting ones is one of the last night, we've given it all we've got. We're just moving around and we're completing different sections of it. All right, we're just gonna now we got this last section that we're gonna be painting tonight. Let's move the lift out of the way. Let's get that spot opened up. We'll move it over here, and you've got to do it like in between like all this crowd and everything.
Yeah,
so it's
it has
really
to be
difficult.
A band playing.
Yeah.
So you have to do in between that, and then we have the guard gate that's around us so that people can't get up to the wall, so that we have space to work. And we had to move that out of the way to be able to move the lift out of the way. And so it's just this small window of time when there wouldn't have been a gate around us. And it's the first time that day when we would have been working on the ground.
Right, yeah. So a perfect storm. It was just this few moments or whatever. We moved the lift out of the way. We were just about to come over and finish this bird that we were painting. And we're like, wow, this is okay. We're gonna do this. And this guy, just completely hammered, just walks up to our wall and just takes out his dick and starts pissing through the gate.
All over the ground, right where we have to walk in.
Right where we're going to be standing on the ground and painting. And it's just like, wow.
It was like I couldn't even imagine. And then he had no idea why we were telling him that that's a real dumb thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And we kept our cool. We were just like, man.
It's like, I can't believe it. How is this
really
possible?
There's bathrooms like right
literally
over
across the street. There's bathrooms.
Right over there. And it was just like, wow. It was just like another one of those where you just had to be like, all right, Divine Mother, you're just really playing a little joke on us here, seeing what we're made of. And we had to stand there and paint till the wee hours in just complete piss smell.
Right. But we did find we had spilled some paint or something, so we got to use that and a bunch of mud to cover up his puddle that he had just made in front of where we had to work. But so we got to had a way to at least bury the mess that he had made, and but mind-blowing and it just perfect storm of like, how did he happen to be there? Was nobody else walking around, everybody else was at the show. This is like this one dude just appeared and then disappeared, like had to do that.
Yeah, and I guess so that was the previous, we had one more night after that, I think one more day. And we had to finish that piece, so we covered it, we tried to get but it still stunk so bad, so we had to just be down there painting. And you're down in the bottom, so your face is like down next to it, and it was just like, so like, all right, just keep your mindset going, just keep chanting your mantras. So it's like those tests that come through, and you just see what you're made of. And so, but then like as that one finished, and the next day we had like a really pleasant day, some really pleasant people showing up. There was like a whole Indian family, a lot of Indian people were showing up and seeing the Saraswati goddess and having really good responses.
That was a magical experience. That was too when we were finishing the Saraswati. So we were standing down in the lower part finishing that one, and it was like midnight again. There was like nobody walking around, and then just happened to be this entire family of Indian people, all in like really nice clothes. Like, I don't know what they're doing at this metal festival. It really didn't make any sense. And then it came up, and they're, using the proper pronunciation, like saying the names and talking about it. And like, who is talking? You like turn around, and it's just this entire Indian family like standing there, just like, oh, this is really great. Came up and started talking to us. And just like, where did you guys come from? They were just like, oh, really cool that you're doing this artwork, and all that stuff. And then it was just like, just got really great energy from them. And then, and then went back to painting, and like, wait, what just happened? Turn around, and they were just gone. The whole family of people just disappeared into the ether. It's like, wow, I don't know. Those were just angels or something. And so it was like, that experience all the way juxtaposed to the guy the next night doing that, So it was like, full spectrum of people that we got to experience that time.
It just teaches you just to persevere, through the difficult times. And there were so many beautiful times. It's just like we were just so in awe of like how many people were just enjoying watching us paint at this metal festival. And really it gave us opportunity to introduce people to seeing that for the first time, of watching somebody paint something. And we were right in the pathway of everybody going from the big stage to the other big stage, and how many people like really just began to like realize what we were doing and would just stand and hang out and watch. And I mean, like Matt was saying, we were painting goddesses and birds and mandalas. So feeling it resonate with people and showing them something unexpected, it was such a nice thing to be able to share with people and to connect with people in that way.
Yeah, we had people every day that would come over and be like, I just love seeing the progress, and this is so awesome. It was like really cool to have people engaging in that way, and not just like walking past it like it's just a thing at a festival. They're really getting involved and getting interested in it, and then sold all the merch at the booth that we brought. It was just a mind-blowing experience. So very cool to have everybody like really getting into the work that way. And then we finished painting the peacock wall. Freebird was being played live on the stage.
Skinner was closing.
Painting birds while Freebird was playing.
That was right.
Great. Something I never thought would happen.
As a bird now, as we're finishing, wow. The universe just seems to all synchronize, and when you're in that flow state, and if you can have the grace and the present mind, state of awareness to really just step back and watch yourself, watch everything that's happening. Like if I was watching what we were doing in a movie, and then I watched the guy piss on that would be a great part of the movie.
Right. Yeah. It was a great scene for sure. But still, oh my.
So it's like, I think that's the key, and that's what Yogananda talks about a lot. It's like, remember that this life is a movie, and what we've been sharing on this podcast and in the community, it's a virtual reality video game. We're just experiencing it from this perspective. And actually, we're not these bodies. We're only renting these bodies. When you're seeing something out in the world, you're looking at yourself. When I'm looking at you, I'm looking at myself. When I'm looking at this microphone, that's myself. This camera, it's all myself. There's no I. And then you get to enjoy it for the great, wonderful story, movie, game that it is, without personally being offended that this guy is pissing on you.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, that helps you move into that gratitude state of mind, which then seems to really make the movie cooler and cooler. Yeah. So it's like the more you can settle into that's mental state of just, oh, really glad this is getting, even in that moment where it's like, oh, this is an interesting part of the movie.
Yeah.
What's the best way to respond?
So that's always the mindset, and we're trying to keep that up with ourselves, and we'll keep sharing those kind of mindsets with everybody on this podcast to help encourage each other. Another big moment this year in April 2022, this year, you got your Kriya initiation at Ananda Village in the Sierra Nevada mountains. That was really great, and you got to go to Ananda before. I got to go visit in person, which was it was cool. And you came back like a different person from that experience.
And getting to fully experience that dream world. Like I said, reading that reading autobiography and hearing him talking about, like, that was Yogananda's mission, was coming to the West and getting people to build these communities, that it is possible to live in this mindset, that it is possible to get an entire group of people to live around each other and be manifesting from that place, and then to just step onto those, like, property and those grounds, and then just seeing, they did it, and then just like really being around people like, oh, this is the real deal, that, an entire group of people that are living this way and acting this way, and just living their lives completely absorbed in that energy, and the place is just mind-blowingly beautiful. Like, and in April is when it's springtime, so California just looks beautiful. Even just the wildflowers around are beautiful. So just walking around and seeing all the nature was mind-blowing. And then at Swami's house, the Crystal Hermitage, they plant 17,000 tulips and plus other amounts of flowers. And there's 2 giant cherry trees that are in full bloom that are covering the whole ground. And pink carpeted petals, literally feels like you're walking around in a dreamland. And so just mind blowing. And then to get the Kriya initiation ceremony at the end of the week there as well. And then got to stay for the day after, and just the accommodation, the way everybody like just immediately feels like family there was, such a powerful experience. And so to I couldn't help but transform mindset and everything about, like, oh yeah, okay, this is real, this is really a thing that can happen, that is already happening, that kind of merging our lives into, so it was like, it was something I'd never thought was possible previously, and then to like be walking on the grounds of it is quite transformative.
And I was so proud of you, because I know the journey that it takes to go on that path of Kriya Yoga, the meditation practice, the discipline, the everyday getting up and reestablishing what you're trying to do and sticking to it, and all of the inner battles and all of the stuff that I was having you do. And that was really like so cool to have the icing be your Kriya initiation. And then I got to go back and join you. I shared on one of the podcasts previously about the Expanding Light retreat. We went to Spiritual Renewal Week together. So then I got to go experience what you had seen there. And it was just like, these are our people. Like, these are everybody that is doing things in like the way that we described here, persevering through the biggest challenge, way bigger than anything we've described, challenges, and creating beauty, and knowing that this life is a dream, and we're here to be creating beauty in the midst of darkness, and to be able to do the inner work so that we can share that light with everybody that we come into contact with. So seeing those examples of people doing that just solidified it for us that this is what we want to be doing with our lives and with our artwork and everything, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really is the thing that is the, you know, most productive thing to be representing, most productive thing to be, you know, just doing with life itself. Like that's what the goal is to, you know, surround yourself with the best people, surround yourself with the best, you know, environment, and then just teaching each other to thrive in any situation, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, really incredible experience there.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
awesome. Yeah, and so now as we end this podcast together, the thing that Matt and I that we want to share, we're going to be doing episodes. We're going to be doing episodes here on this podcast where we're going to be studying the Ramayana, which is the basis of the whole Seekers of the Eternal Web3 community, is the story of Hanuman that is included in in the Ramayana, this beautiful ancient epic story that spans time, that could possibly have been with humans since the first stories were ever told. Thousands of years ago, it was written down for the first time in Sanskrit through automatic writing by a poet named Valmiki. And before that, it was chanted in an oral tradition, just being memorized. And then that same vibration was carried through and then was channeled through this poet to write it into Sanskrit. And then it was written into other languages. And then it's proliferated into becoming the most generative story ever told, the most popular story ever told, which strangely in the West, where we're at here, a lot of people have actually never even heard of Hanuman or the Ramayana. So we're really, really enthusiastic about sharing these great scriptures and working, attuning to like stories of Hanuman to learn lessons and to able to feel the courage and the beauty that can come from reading these stories and asking for them to teach us and guide us. So yeah.
As far as I can tell, it's a transmission of pure consciousness to teach us how to act and react in every situation of life. You know, it's somehow through these stories have been given to us, like every situation that could possibly happen. And then you know, like I said, pure consciousness way of understanding the best way to go about handling those situations.
True.
So it's quite a powerful thing. And it isn't just a story. It isn't just a great story. It isn't, you know, it's got everything I love in every story of, you know, battles and demons and heroes and the whole thing, you know, but it's also teaching you how to handle anything that could happen to you in the most heroic and badass way, you know?
yeah. It's like experiential learning, you know, and you won't even realize it. Like in your life, you'll just know what to do all of a sudden, you know, because like Matt was saying, they say that every situation is contained within this and the proper way to maneuver through that. So you'll find yourself in a situation and then all of a sudden you'll know what to do because you read the Ramayana.
Yeah, and then it's like it works in that way. The stories about the gods too, like all the stories studied leading up to the work that we did with the Shiva paintings and all that as well. You know, can just learn so much about you know, how to handle every situation through the stories, through all the teachings that they have to offer. So
we want to go like super deep together with all of you. We want to get super nerdy about this. It's just like in anything. Imagine if we were discussing whatever your favorite Lord of the Rings or whatever epic journey. We're going to go deep into this and be able to discuss it. And the cool thing is that everybody who tunes into this, we're gonna be studying first off this really short translation. It's only 4 hours long. There's 6 chapters. This is a translation by William Buck, and it's narrated by one of our heroes, Ram Dass. And it's 4.5 hours long, 6 chapters, and then every week we're going to discuss one of the chapters and discuss like what we learned and how we're using it in our lives. So each week we're gonna get together and do that. So we encourage everyone else. We're gonna put a link to this audiobook to download it and to listen to it and to do this with us. And in the Discord server, you'll be able to talk about your experiences and have conversations with the community there. We're also going to be doing Twitter AMAs where you can talk to us live and we can share together and you can share your experiences. We want this to be really interactive with everybody. And the great thing is that we're not Hindu scholars. We're not just saying like, this is what it means, and because I have all of this knowledge and understanding. It is like about what does it mean to you? Like, what are you getting out of it? How is it helping you? Because it's a living scripture, a living sacred text that is speaking to you and how you use it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it is a personal experience, and even sometimes the way to describe how it's how you're hearing it can be difficult sometimes because it's such a personal experience. So, but it will be very cool to kind of share together what situations it might have helped you out of, or what it kind of taught you in a way to help you in your own life. And it's interesting to find that when reading these stories, it seems to, whatever part of the story you open up to that day, seems to talk directly about what's happening in your life in that moment. So like, be ready for that to happen. Because it tends to work that way somehow. Like, whatever has happened in your life is synchronistically leading up to that moment and you reading that specific part of the story. So it will start opening up these things that might really blow your mind. So like, don't be afraid if that does happen.
You'll feel like the kid. You'll feel like the kid from the movie The Never-Ending Story, where he's reading it and it's like talking about his own life, and he throws the book across the table. Like, that's what it feels like, so right, allow for that to happen. It's okay. It's just you talking to yourself, and hearing what other people are sharing. We're all going to learn from each other, and it's going to be really fun. So we really encourage any seekers out there that are looking for something really fun to do and to connect with other people in really deep ways. And we encourage our friends from India to jump in too and share their experiences. We're coming at it as Westerners. We're here in the US. We haven't grown up with all of these rituals around Hanuman and all of these sacred traditions. We're coming at it from a new way. So we're really interested in hearing from people from all over the world and how Hanuman has been important in their lives. And we just really want to, spark this really fun fire together where we're enjoying these stories and learning and growing and creating artwork around it. So yeah, we really encourage you to join us, and we'll be back again to share more. Jason will be back. Who knows, we maybe have him on here too, talking about his experiences with the Ramayana as well. So unless you have anything else you want to share.
Yeah, that's about it. Thanks everybody for listening to our story.
Yeah, this has been fun. So look forward to seeing Matt in the Discord channel as well, and starting to share more there. And we're going to continue working on these Hanuman drawings and sharing all of the progress along the way. So blessings to everybody, joy to you, and we'll see you next time.